based on a true story. Some of the names, locations, and dates of the story were changed for the privacy of all those involved. The Streets of the 90s by Bruno Saldanha. In the heart of New York City during the 1990s, a young Brazilian American teenager named Danny, aka D, navigated through the perilous streets of Queens, New York City. The city was a concrete jungle, alive with the pulse of hip hop, the flash of graffiti, and the shadow of gangs. Crack was destroying families and making some people a lot of money. The NYPD was violently cracking down on gangs, drug dealer, and prostitution. And like always, the people that suffered the most by this were black and brown people. Andy grew up in a small apartment with his father and his mother, who worked two jobs just to keep food on the table. His father lived with him, but was never really a father. Mostly, he was just verbally and physically abusive to Danny and his mom, leaving a void filled by the streets. By the time Danny was 14, he was already running with the local gangs, the Red Demons. They offered him a sense of belonging and protection he couldn't find at home or school. The Red Demons were notorious in Queens, especially in Astoria. They controlled several blocks, dealing with everything from stolen goods to drugs. D was quickly introduced to a world of drugs, guns, and prostitution. The gang had a hierarchy, and D was at the very bottom, running errands and making deliveries, trying to rise up the ranks and become a major player in the Red Demons. One hot summer night, D found himself in the middle of a turf war. The rival gang, the Blue Devils, had been encroaching in their territory. Tensions were high, and it was only a matter of time before things erupted. D was with his friend Mike when they heard shots. Mike and D pulled out their guns, hid behind a car, and started shooting back at the devils. His heart pounded as they were returning fire. The loud sounds of the police sirens approaching was what D and Mike needed to get away. In the aftermath of the chaos, police sirens wailed in the distance as D and Mike went through back alleys, the adrenaline masking their fear. That night marked a turning point for D. The violence of being in the street gang was no longer abstract, it was real. In school, D's grades slipped, and he found himself almost constantly in the company of the demons and the girls that flocked around them. One girl, Jasmine, stood out. She was smart, beautiful, and had a spark that intrigued Dean. They spent hours talking about their dreams and the future, moments that made him question his path. But the streets had a way of pulling him back. One night, Dee and Jasmine were at a party when the cops raided the place. Drugs and alcohol were everywhere. Dee was arrested and spent the night in jail. His mom bailed him out, and her disappointment was evident. "You're throwing your life away, Danny," she said with tears in her eyes. "This isn't what I wanted for you." Her words haunted him. Dee started to distance himself from the gang, focusing more on school and his relationship with Jasmine. He still smoked weed, but it was more of an escape than a lifestyle, and he promised never to touch a gun again. The final straw came when Mike was shot during a deal gone wrong. Standing at his friend's funeral, Dee realized he needed to make a change. He cut ties with the Red Demons, a dangerous move, but one he knew was necessary. D poured himself into school, working hard and catching up on lost time. Jasmine was his anchor, helping him stay focused. By graduation, Danny had turned his life around. He was accepted into a community college, a chance to escape the cycle of violence and poverty. As the 90s came to a close, D looked back at his journey. The streets had shaped him, but they didn't define him. He had faced the harsh reality of gangs, guns, drugs, and women, and emerged with a clearer vision for his future. The city that had once been a prison was now his inspiration, a testament to his resilience and determination to rise above.